Yes. What do you think of that, Mucky? How cool was that?
That was so sick, man. That was so sick. Like, we've been wanting to do a podcast like this for so long, and I thought, oh yeah, we'll just have a normal intro or something like that. But nah, you came out, swinging your dick, basically, showing like how big this podcast is gonna be. And yet, the intro was so sick, man. That was
So
so sick.
I'm calling it at midnight or at midnight. It's 10 o'clock my time. It's not midnight. It's midnight for you though. I
Yeah.
guess the good thing about that idea or that name is that it's midnight anywhere. Like it's always midnight somewhere. As
Yes.
long as you go around the world somewhere at some point, the world is round, right?
Yes.
That might be something that we discuss at some point.
It could be
We'll find
flat.
out.
It could be flat.
But the other thing is, not only is it midnight for Mucky, 10 p.m. for me, and it's about 5 a.m. I think in the States, on the East Coast. But there's also the double pun there of midnight. Like we're mid, like it's just mediocre. It's just two dudes having a chat. So what I wanted to do originally, Mucky, was that. And by the way, I'm Kahuna. This is Mucky. I should give you the full Mucky treatment, isn't it? The intro.
Oh yes, surely.
Yeah, we're gonna throw it out.
Yeah.
High above the Mucky Mark castle made of clouds, there sits Wonder Boy, the great white hope.
Yeah, boy.
MUCKNY. MUCKY. It's Mucky!
Yeah.
So yeah, like we've done podcasts for a long time, Mucky, and there's been many moments where you'll drop comments about how much of a believer you are in Bigfoot, cryptids, aliens, all sorts of fun, mysterious stuff. But see, the thing that I struggle with is that you also then drop it in the very next sentence to how much of a fan you are of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and how you'll then also then say like that Sneaky Steve is the greatest Survivor player of all time.
Which,
like
yes, yeah.
So I don't know what's a bit, what's serious, what blurs the edge of he's clearly mucking around with it. So when you drop that, Bigfoot, and you mention Bigfoot all the time, you mention a lot of conspiracy theories, you mention a lot of aliens. 100% now, with all sincerity, looking right down into your camera, do you believe Bigfoot is real?
Yes. With all seriousness, I do believe. Should I get into like how I got into Bigfoot?
Please tell me about the Bigfoot journey.
Okay, so it was, I believe, like 2012, 2013, somewhere around that time. And I just gone out white baiting with my, do you know what white bait is?
Is that where? No, I'm not. I was going to try to make some joke about finding white people in the streets.
Yeah, we use white people as bait to lure other white people out. No, it's basically like a type of fish. Like it looks similar to like a tadpole.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and we have a special place down in Westport, which is down the South Island of New Zealand. We had just come back from fishing out there. It was me, my grandma, mum, and my younger sister. We came back, and we're just waiting to go to the airport to fly back to Tauranga, which where I lived at the time. And grandma randomly turned on TV, and there was a program called Finding Bigfoot. It was just randomly on TV, never heard of Bigfoot or anything. And they were in like this massive room, and these like specialists were talking to a crowd of people, and they're each sharing like their personal experience of like a Bigfoot being in their backyard or like a potential encounter that they had had. And there was one about this lady who had gone out to her backyard, which the way she described it looked very similar to one of my auntie's place who lived in Tipuki at the time. Like quite like an open backyard, but quite like a bushy sort of like along the outside. And she talked about having like these two red eyes just staring at her from the bush. And she got closer at it, because she thought it was like some kind of like a wild cat or something. She went to go up to it to scare it away, and these two eyes just shot up and was like way taller than her and just like ran away. And she could hear like, the thud, the crashing and stuff, and it completely petrified her. And as a kid, because I was an intermediate, which is between primary school and high school, I was thinking, wow, like that is like, kind of terrifying and kind of cool. So when I arrived in Tauranga, I was doing like my own research and everything. And that year, just a quick shout out, I believe it was my nana. She had gotten me this book, Hunting Monsters. It's the study behind cryptozoology, which is the study behind like different cryptids and mystical creatures. And I was reading it, and I was just so hooked into it. I really was so hooked into it. I checked out like other shows, like Finding Bigfoot and whatnot, and just completely ever since, I've just been obsessed with Bigfoot and other cryptids around the world. And that's how I originally got into it.
Are there Bigfoot in New Zealand? Like, is it known to have like is there a localized version of Bigfoot, or what it would be?
So originally there was like there has been a case of a Bigfoot in New Zealand, which I heavily researched on. But basically what it was that when the English first came in and sort of colonized New Zealand, they brought a lot of their animals and stuff with them, right? And of course they brought some gorillas, but one gorilla had escaped. And basically this gorilla was like had sort of learned to like walk on two legs, especially tracking through the like New Zealand bush and stuff like that. It's much easier with two legs. And people just thought it was a Bigfoot. But then they captured and realized it was their lost gorilla. So that's like the only
that
case
actually happened.
That actually happened, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because we have one here.
Yes, and I believe it is
Yowie.
Yes, Yowie.
Yowie. Like we've even got chocolates. Have you had a Yowie chocolate? Do you know what a Yowie chocolate is? Do you know what what's a Freddo frog? Do you guys have Freddo frog?
Yeah.
So it's a Freddo frog. Essentially, it's just a solid piece of chocolate, but they used to call it a Yowie. Or I don't even know if they're still around, but it was a Yowie, and it was essentially the Aussie Bigfoot in chocolate form was had by children in their lunchboxes all around the country. You know what I mean? Like that's how familiar Australians are with the term Yowie. I don't necessarily know if kids would associate in their head Yowie equals Bigfoot equals Yeti equals Sasquatch. You know what I mean? Like that it's the same mythological cryptid creature that Mucky 100% believes is true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, am I allowed to dive deep into some into reasons why I potentially believe that?
Please do. I am. Listen, I am. It's Saturday night.
Yes.
I ain't got shit to do. I'm well medicated tonight, Mucky, and I am in my most open position for Bigfoot information.
Right, man. And I would just say, this just at the top before I dive deep into my reasons. These are my own personal beliefs, right? And a lot in this day and era, people will see one TikTok video or just some random post about it and be like, oh my God, yes, I totally believe in it. Now, these are my own personal beliefs. No one has dropped this upon me, forced me upon me or anything like that. These are my own genuine beliefs, right? Not from some Facebook post, not from some TikTok video, my own personal beliefs that I've had for many years. So here's some reasons why I believe Bigfoot exists. Number one, it is a great descendant of a dinosaur. Well, it's not exactly a dinosaur, but the Gigantopithecus, which is basically like a giant ape that was around in, I believe it's the third age of dinosaurs, like the third period. I'm not sure what the period is called. Yeah, but it was sort of around that period, right? And we have seen that there are animals based off, like dinosaurs and stuff like that, that's sort of been passed down, right? Like elephants based off of Phoerbia, I think that's how you say it. I don't know. But yeah, there are a lot of animals that actually been reincarnated down, like, from a dinosaur.
Yeah, like
And
crocodiles and alligators are like
yeah, like the
almost direct descendants.
psycho. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
and shark to a megalodon and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You
And
probably think a megalodon's still around? That's a
no,
cryptid, technically.
yeah. Technically, yes. I
Yeah.
mean, something that I loved about the Meg film, though, and this going completely off sidetrack, is the whole idea of we haven't, like, what we think is the bottom of the ocean is not actually the bottom of the ocean. So, with that logic, potentially, but I highly, highly doubt it.
Right.
I think if there's a megalodon, we would certainly know because it is just that ginormous and it is a lot of food. But, anyways, with Bigfoot, so I personally believe, right, that we weren't created by God or anything. I personally believe in, like, human evolution. And when you look at how human evolution has sort of gone, right, it's sort of like like a young ape, into eventually a full man, right? But there's a period in between, where there's like a man, there's still like an ape, but it's still standing upright and man, and then it's just a man, right?
Yeah.
And I think because the brain difference between, like, do you know what the brain difference is between a human and a gorilla? It's only two.
Uh,
It's only 2%.
is that true?
Yeah, it's legitimately
Or
true.
is that one of those, like, facts that people know and throw around, but, like,
Yeah,
yo, you only actually use 10% of your brain. Like, that's not true.
oh
Like,
no,
is it
no,
one of those,
it is
you know
actually
what I
true.
mean?
Unless
Okay.
of
Because,
zoos
well,
that
if that's
Google
true,
is
then
vice
that
versa.
2% does a fucking lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, that
absolutely.
2%, if it is only 2% different, isn't it? Don't you mean DNA? 2% difference in
I know,
DNA or
I'll
something like
quickly
that?
search it up. Hang on.
Because I feel
Brain.
like our brain is, like, significantly better. Like, that's the only thing we have going for us over. Like, if our brain isn't setting us apart from gorillas, we're fucked. Like, I've seen Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Hang on. Brain difference between humans and gorillas. 1.6% of DNA.
DNA, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure I
Yeah,
got the
it
brain.
doesn't mean our brains work on the
Probably from
same
like a zoo or
level or
something.
whatever.
Yeah. And anyways, so basically, I think that there's a good chance that somewhere in between the process of gorilla man, you would have had your outliers that would have like have gone their separate ways, right?
Right,
And
okay.
because humans traveled, we started in Africa and we like traveled pretty much around the world. We migrated around the world, right? And I do
Mm.
think that there were probably some individuals who potentially got lost along the way or left behind or something while traveling through Africa and Europe and whatnot. And and with the whole myth of Bigfoot as well, something to really look at is that there is a Bigfoot-like creature in almost like every continent around the world. There's the Sasquatch in America, right? You've got the Yeti in like the mountains of Nepal. You've got the Yowie in Aussie. There's a Russian one, and there's like one in China. I forgot what both of them are called. So it's like, and all of those date back way before even like cross-country communication would have been a thing. Like the internet wasn't around then. Like navy ships weren't really around then either.
Mm.
So it's like, how could in so many different places around the world have like a thing that pretty much matches the exact same description, right? And it's not just from one place, it's from many different places around the world. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
there's a obviously. I mean, look, you mentioned before that you don't believe in God. God created people, all that sort of thing,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And neither do I, but I once did, and I used to use that as a proof of God to say, well, how can so many people all around the world in different locations have an innate thing to worship God, that they're all that there's a God for, like, everyone has a God,
Mm.
like it
Yeah.
comes out in different ways, like
Mm.
it's to me, and I haven't done any research, but if I was just to think off the top of my head, an explanation for how isolated communities around the world will have similar stories of a
Yeah.
Bigfoot. Um, it's the boogeyman, right?
Yeah.
It's to scare people, to keep them indoors. It's the explanation of things unknown. It's the serial killer or the rapist or the murderer that's out
Mm.
there.
Yeah.
You put another name on it. You put something like, oh, it's the devil, it's the Bigfoot, it's the Sasquatch, it's the whatever like
Yeah.
thing. It's the big bad that we can't explain or don't want to put our human brain around because it's gonna suck to know that it's
Yeah.
someone we know, or it's a person doing bad things, or whatever. Like it's just a label for the unknown.
Mm.
The fact that it's taken that form, um I don't know, it is interesting because obviously monkeys, gorillas are the probably, with along with what, like bears and lions,
Yeah.
the apex, the scariest, the most
Mm.
impactful, like of the animal kingdom. And to have something be like us but bigger, us but
Yeah.
scary, like it adds to the mythology, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's yeah.
It's an interesting one, and if there are any like novels or books on it, I would like one thing I'd love to know is how did religion first start? I reckon that would be like a really interesting study to know, like how can one person be like, oh, there's a Lord in the sky, and we all have to like pray to him, and he will send us good, like goodwill and good fortune and stuff. I would love to learn all about that. But something about Bigfoot though as well, right? Is that this
Mm.
legend, this myth, and how there's like at least something like it, sort of around the world. Like, have you ever been to Alaska, for example?
Have I? No, I've
Yeah,
not been
no.
to
Okay,
Alaska.
yeah, okay. Because I went there and
Have you?
yeah. So my
You've
family
been
and I
to
did.
Alaska?
Yeah, my family and I we did like a whole cruise right from San Fran, around
Oh,
Alaska.
to like see Aurora Borealis and stuff?
No, it was
No. Why would you go to
I know.
Alaska? Is that
I,
like a big
I,
tourist cruisy destination?
Look, I was just a kid, right? It was just my dad being like, "Look, I'm an Air New Zealand pilot. Let me just flex my money, all right?" But no, but it was like a big family holiday. We went to what's it? Is it Haynes? There's one starting with K. I want to say Katikati, but there's a town in New Zealand. Um, yeah, so there was like three different towns that we'd stopped at in Alaska, and then we went to Victoria Island in Canada, and then we sort of came back to San Francisco, and that was basically like our trip. And I
Wow.
believe I believe it was Haynes. That's what it was Haynes that we'd gone to. It was just a small town, right? And we had gone into like this walk, right, to check out like a river that there's a lot of like salmon and whatnot that's in it, and there were a lot of signs that sort of like warning like Sasquatch activity and stuff like that. And it wasn't like a handwritten sign and stuff that you'll see every now and then or graffiti. It was a proper like government official sign. Why would a
Okay.
government sign off to that if they didn't really like believe it and stuff, right? And like like Sasquatch was like heavily marketed in that town as well. There was like a
Yeah,
like a tall
that's
statue
why.
of Bigfoot and all that sort of stuff. But I think that, well, I guess to sort of sum up, my belief on Bigfoot, I think that the reason why it hasn't been exposed out to the public, right, is that have you
Mm.
seen the movie Troll at all? The Dutch thriller on Netflix.
Mm, yes, and I think I watched it, like some of it, and didn't like
Mm.
pay attention and was looking at my phone
Mm.
a lot, and then
Oh, fair
stopped
enough. Yeah.
because of kids and stuff. I can't remember, but I know of it, but I probably didn't finish it, I don't think.
Okay, so basically, like, well, it's not really like spoiling much, but because it's sort of all in the first act, right? So there's a giant troll that's in these mountains, and it wakes up,
Yeah, yeah.
and the government finds out about it, right? It's like here's this crazy mystical thing wandering around doing its own thing. What does the government do? let's send our entire military force to take it down. You get what I mean? And they send their tanks, they send their jets and shit. You know, they like try to blow it up. That doesn't work. So then they try and think of other ways that they could to destroy it, right? And I think that there's a chance that Bigfoot has been found, has been proven to exist, but it just hasn't been made a big public thing. Because what's the first thing people are going to do when they find out about it? They're going to go hunting for it, right? Like its fur, its meat is going to sell amazingly on the black market, right? People are going to want to. People are going to want to see
Meat.
it.
I don't
Right?
know about its meat, bro.
I
People want to
mean,
see it. People want to find it, but
yeah,
not to skin it and eat
exactly.
it.
I mean,
I think
people
it'll
like
taste
there'll
disgusting.
be like hunters out there hunting after it. Yeah, there'll be people who would want to throw it into zoos for like tourist attractions and stuff like that, right? And obviously, like different scientific organizations and whatnot would then be going after it, because I'd want to like study it, its DNA and whatnot and all that sort of stuff. And eventually, what's already such a rare thing could be completely gone, right?
So
And so,
who's keeping the secret?
well,
Who?
that's the thing. I'm not sure. Like, I would, like, I'm not, a crazy conspiracy theorist where I would be like, oh, it's this government, Parks and Rec stuff. I don't know, right? But that's just how I sort of see it, right? Where it's sort of been just kept on the down low, not a big public thing, because people will freak out. Because we live in an age, Kahuna, where people are too scared to be in a crowded room, right? Imagine if it's like, oh, there's a giant hairy ape walking around in your forest. People will lose their shit, right?
What
So
do you mean? We have that
yeah,
now. Like we have giant hairy apes walking around. We have
yeah,
fucking lions and tigers and bears. Oh my!
yeah,
Like that.
yeah,
Or have you? Like we're used to that. We have that. It would just
yeah,
be another animal. It would just be another. It's not bigger than
mm,
a giraffe or an
yeah,
elephant. You
yeah.
know.
It's from what I believe, it's meant to be 12 to 13 feet tall, I think, or like even 15 feet. Like a fully grown Sasquatch is like being reported to be somewhere between 13 to 15 feet tall. And I don't know. That's just really my personal thoughts on Bigfoot. There are obviously other adaptations of Bigfoot, like the Yeti, which I don't necessarily believe in itself. But when it comes to like Bigfoot individually, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. I think it's out there. Well, if it's not out there now, I definitely believe it like it did legitimately once exist.
Okay.
But yeah,
Hmm. So what other like? If you believe in one, do you believe in all of them?
not all of them, no, because obviously there are some cryptids which, as you mentioned, were sort of just made up like folktale stories and stuff. But I do think that there are some which are real, but they've just been leveled up, I guess you can say, by word of mouth, like the Kraken, for example. So here's how I think the
Right.
Kraken came about, right? It's during the Vikings age, right? You've got a tiny wood boat, you're sort of north of Europe going out fishing, you're in the Antarctic waters, maybe you sail out a bit more, and you fish up a colossal squid, right? Which at the time for those boats, like holy shit, if this thing wanted
Yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah.
it could have like completely destroyed our ship. So then word sort of spreads around like, hey, be careful of the ocean. There are these giant, fish creatures, which if it wanted to, it could destroy a boat because ships back then would have been like really, really small, right? And
Yeah.
obviously like not that strong. And that's my personal thing on the Kraken. I think it's just a giant colossal squid, but it's just sort of been like because of word of mouth and for during the times which it would have been originally first fished up, it became a much more bigger thing than what it actually was.
Well, that's what I think the Bigfoot is too.
Oh, okay. Like, there's definitely a chance where it is just like a gorilla that potentially
Well,
just learned how to walk on two legs.
so Bigfoot specifically, you already said you separate Bigfoot from a Yeti,
Yeah.
and things like that. So Sasquatch, Bigfoot, North America does not have any primates at all. There's no monkeys. There's nothing like that whatsoever
Yes.
in North
Yes.
America,
No, not
right?
North America. No.
So then you have Native Americans.
Hmm.
All through America down to California is basically Mexican, through
Yeah.
California and Mexico, and they are Incans and Mayans that would have monkeys from South America, Maybe they're doing trade, maybe they're doing travel, maybe they're doing battle, maybe they're doing war. And the Native Americans, where there's no primates, there's nothing like that, see, hey, did you see they had that little hairy man with them, right?
Yeah.
The like we've never seen that before. What is that monkey? Like the monkey, we don't know what the fuck that monkey is. That's a hairy
Yeah.
man. It was like whether it's a little capuchin South American monkey or whether through trade routes and all that, maybe someone saw an actual chimp or an
Yeah.
actual gorilla or something. I don't know along the lines, but like I know South American monkeys are not like great. What do we call primates? They're whatever. Like they're not like gorillas and chimps. They're the smaller style. But the natives in America see a monkey and go, "What is that hairy man? What is that little thing?" They go to the next person and it goes from this big to this big, from this big to this big. Did you see the fish I caught? Right, the fish I caught was this big. Did you see the hairy man that was over there? Like the monkey that was there. Like they don't have the word monkey. They don't know what the fuck a monkey is. All they know is they see this giant. Someone mentioned the giant thing, and then the next person whispering toad said it was this big, and then the next person said it was this big, and all of a sudden you've got Sasquatch.
Yeah. And
right?
I mean, that's a really valid point. That is a really good point. It's just the only thing to counter that with is like, okay, but what about like the Yowie and the Bigfoot-like creature in China and in Russia, and then even like the tail of the Yeti as well. Pretty sure there's one in Europe as well. It's like it's not just America. It's like this
it's the same as it's the same as dragons. It's the same as werewolves. It's the same as vampires.
True. Yeah.
Like there's versions of vampires like all over the place, right? Like completely independent. So you're right. I don't know how that happens, but it does tend to happen. And unless you're putting Bigfoot, which I will openly admit, that on the spectrum of credibility, a descendant of a great ape potentially still being alive thousands now is higher on the scale of credibility than like vampires, right? But there is vampire law in China. There's vampire law in Eastern Europe, which is Dracula stuff. There's Filipino vampires that I know about, like heard stories of like versions of vampires, and doesn't mean that the fact that everyone has vampire stories, it must mean that there were vampires around. You know what I mean? Like, what other evidences surely you've dove down many TikTok holes, and your YouTube algorithm must be an absolute shit show. With big, like, if finding Bigfoot is like, what have you got? What can you show me? What's like a really good proof? Like, we've mentioned before the go-to, I think the absolute pinnacle of Bigfoot footage is that walk.
The Patterson Gimlin film,
and
just like the original trilogy of Star Wars, it's like the only good thing.
So what else sort of added to your buying into it?
So that was obviously that walk right there, like that walk of it crossing the river and it does its turn and look and it just keeps on going, is the strongest piece of evidence that a Sasquatch exists, right? And we haven't seen anything like a strong piece of evidence kind of since then, right? And I feel like a good reason for that is simply because as technology's gotten better, obviously we've got a lot more like trolls and pranksters out in the world as well. People, are quite keen on, pulling off these jokes and these pranks and whatnot. And it's an easy attention grabbing thing on social media as well. Like, oh my God, there's
you want to watch that footage, the original.
Yeah, I'm down. And
sorry.
Yeah. Oh, all good. But I guess my thing on that original piece of footage, right, is that they were originally filming a documentary. So the main guy behind it, he's a hunter and is just doing like a documentary about one of his hunting trips. And it was just while they were taking a break, like, I forgot how the story went, but they heard like some tree branch snap or something, or something big walking past, and they turned around and they just saw that walking.
Let's check it out.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think this is the one we're talking about. I'll share screens. How do I do that again? Present.
Oh, here we go.
All right, let's see if this.
A half-century ago, two former rodeo men went into the woods with a 16mm camera and stumbled on.
So we're watching a doco, I guess a little brief introduction to the footage, etc. And this is the story that you were saying, that he was filming a documentary about hunting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bigfoot.
When she's walking across a sandbar and spreads her arms out and looks at the camera. Frame 352. That's become the Bigfoot icon for our culture.
The sighting of Patty, as she would later be known, at Bluff Creek in California is one of the most famous reels in film history. Before the Patterson-Gimlin film, named after its makers, the Sasquatch was a local Northwest legend. After, Bigfoot became an international celebrity. But look at this clip from the 2017 movie War for the Planet of the Apes. I mean, it's obvious now with the leaps in film and costume technology that this is just someone in an ape suit, right?
Yeah.
A guy...
Isn't it? Is that just guy in an ape suit? No?
No, it's not.
So this to you is the most authentic footage or sighting. It's the OG, it's the original kind of big one, but you also think it feels the most real also. So this is the standard to which all Bigfoot found footage and sightings should be living up to.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Even passed a lie detector test on national TV, claiming he wore the suit.
About whether you were the Bigfoot shown in the 1967 Patterson film. Yes.
But the film continues to fascinate people.
How come?
He just said he's the dude.
What?
He
Aaron, can you play that back? I sure wasn't paying attention. What do you say?
This guy here. Yeah. But...
A guy even passed a lie detector test on national TV, claiming he wore the suit.
About whether you were the Bigfoot shown in the 1967 Patterson film. Yes.
But the film continues to fascinate people.
How? Wow. Would you look
lie
at that?
detector. Yeah, lie detector.
Confident are you this film's real?
At this point, I'm as confident as I can be, short of having stood on the sandbar with Roger and Bob and witnessed it myself.
That's Jeff Meldrum, a professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State. He's known for being one of the few academics to openly study Sasquatch. For Bigfooters around the world, the Patterson-Gimlin film is not only real, it's one of the strongest pieces of evidence of the existence of an undiscovered giant walking ape on the planet. Still, 50 years later, the film is yet to be officially debunked. So, how is this not a person wearing an ape suit?
It's all so easy to say, oh, that's obviously a man in a fur suit, until you see it up against a man in a fur suit.
He points to the Planet of the Apes franchise that came out around the same time as the film and won an Oscar for the makeup. He specifically calls up a scene in the sauna in the 1970 sequel Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
They look like big, hairy Pillsbury Doughboys.
Jeff Meldrum compares it to the Patterson-Gimlin film, which he shows to his anatomy students. I'm also including some stabilized footage from a Reddit user that helps illustrate Jeff's point.
Say, all right, I want you to point out as many landmarks of surface anatomy and muscle masses that you can identify. And they start at the head, and they can see the trapezius, they can see the deltoid, they can see the lateral and long heads of the triceps. You can see the erector spinae down the back. You can see the shoulder blades moving under the skin. I mean, you just go on and on from top to bottom. You can pick out all these features, none of which ever show up in a in a cheap off-the-shelf costume.
Costume manufacturer Philip Morris claimed just that in this video. He gave talks about how he sold Patterson the suit worn in the film. But the most relevant proof of Bigfoot's existence for some serious researchers isn't easily captured on film. It's what the Sasquatch leaves behind. Cliff Barrickman has one of the largest collections of Sasquatch footprints in the world. You might recognize Cliff as the co-host of Animal Planet's Finding Bigfoot. He's seen a lot of fake prints, but says the Patterson-Gimlin ones aren't so easily dismissed.
The trailing leg of the creature also shows the flexibility in the mid part of the foot. There are a few frames there where we see Patty take her heel off the ground, but yet keep the entire forefoot in touch with the ground.
Along with the footage of Patty was a clear track of footprints.
One of them showed a very distinctive pressure ridge, a push-off that comes about as a result of the very flexible midfoot.
This distinct characteristic is a smoking gun for Jeff. He's seen that pressure ridge in foot samples across decades and continents. But both Jeff and Cliff admit that until there's a body, then the film and all the research will be up for debate. If it's a guy in a suit, the Patterson-Gimlin film is one of the great hoaxes of all time. If it's not, the film would completely upend everything we understand about apes and evolution. Either way, the Patterson-Gimlin film turned a Northwest local legend into a global icon. And it's endured because it reminds us there's some things in the world we can never know for sure. Hey, I'm John. I made the video. If you want to see more like it, go to opb.org/video or like us on Facebook. Thanks for watching.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, and like something I was about to go into as well, which I'm glad the video kind of touched based on it, is that you just look at the costume designs of those Planet of the Apes films, which the original Planet of the Apes films, right, had they did really well, and obviously the budget had increased over time, and you'd think that they'd get more realistic ape suits because they've definitely got the budget for it.
Yeah.
But obviously with technology at the time, that was very restricting, right? And you compare the Patterson-Gimlin, if it was a costume, compare that to, Planet of the Apes, which that's obviously like a multi-million-dollar project. How come that one suit is so realistic? They even broke down all the different muscle compartments and stuff and the foot pressure. How is that way more realistic?
They're made for different things, first of all.
Mm.
You've worked in film, you've got it doesn't necessarily going to be nature accurate for a Planet of the Apes movie. You know what I mean? They're not trying to make it look like Bigfoot. They're trying to make it look like whatever they wanted to make it look like for the film. Because they couldn't get it, I guess, completely accurate. They would look like a Bigfoot, not like a chimp or some sort of hybrid. But I mean, it's so easy to say it's a dude in a suit. We got a dude saying it was me. We got a guy going, yeah, I wore the suit. We got a person saying I sold them the suit. Here's an example of the suits I used to make. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I sort of find it with just almost anything, right? On opposing spectrums, whether it comes down to conspiracy theories or just other things in general, is that you always have people trying to disprove something. You've got people who are pro-government, and then you've got people who are pro-anti-government, who think that every small thing, for example, people didn't want the COVID vaccine because they believe that that's how the government is going to secretly watch every small thing that they can do, right? And that's how they can control them. So I feel like no matter what, with almost every topic, you're going to have someone always trying to disprove it and someone who's always trying to prove it, right? And I just think,
But for something like that, it's not up to it's up to the people to prove it. That's the thing. I would 100% believe in a Bigfoot if there was any verifiable evidence. If there's some why has there not been you talked about your first encounter with Bigfoot is a TV show called Finding Bigfoot.
Yeah, so that's how I first heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's so many people finding Bigfoot to the point where they actually make a television program called Finding Bigfoot. That there people looking like experts. People, this is their job, and they found
not much. Yeah,
no, yeah, like
hardly anything. Yeah, it's really interesting, right? It's a thing where it's like it's either that the creature's extinct now, right? Which that could very well be the case, right? Maybe that Patterson Gimlin film was the like that Sasquatch was the last of its kind, right? That very well is a possibility that Bigfoots are now extinct. But I also think that there's a chance that it's such a rare creature as well, if that sort of makes sense. Like there are definitely a lot of
also like
species in the world.
when you're talking about fauna and especially megafauna,
Mm,
you mentioned we talked about megalodon is obviously on another scale, like how big it
yeah,
would be, but you don't believe it would exist anymore because the sheer amount of food that it would need to consume and all that sort of thing.
yeah,
Like for something as big and as large as a Bigfoot, the impact on the environment would be huge. But
yeah,
also like assuming it evolved from, you mentioned the Gigantolopithecus and stuff like that. Like we all evolved from, like, everything that we talk about evolution wise, we evolved from monkeys. Like where
yeah,
we are the most, no, or not most, but we are evolved from monkeys, right?
yeah,
We're also the tallest. We're taller than gorillas, we're taller than chimps, and you
yeah,
kind of evolve to the, like, what, why does this thing exist? Like what
yeah,
made this giant primate adapt to an environment to be that big? Like what is it eating? Why does it have to be that big? What, like, why is, you know what I mean? Like
yeah. I mean, it's a thing as well as like, is Bigfoot a carnivore, herbivore, or omnivore, right? Because if it's like a carnivore, right, like there's a lot of elk, there's like moose, you got your grizzly bears, you got your, this salmon in the rivers and stuff. There's definitely like meat sources out there, right? And you
yeah,
think about,
but surely another apex predator in
mm,
the ecosystems that we like, if a Bigfoot is stealth, like this gigantic fucking
yeah,
monster is the best ninja on the planet and avoids all human contact, right? Like
yeah,
somehow, like, first, like, I would assume we're talking about not just like general intelligence, but like almost super intelligence, that it's actually smarter than people that are trying to hunt and find it. So it's not just smart for an animal, it's not even as smart as people, it's actually smarter than
hmm,
us, right? It's outsmarting us for literally hundreds of years now, all
yeah,
around the globe, billions of us on the planet, and
yeah,
they're knowingly avoiding detection. Or are they an animal or like a thing and don't even think in those terms? They just live their
yeah,
life to survive and eat and sleep and procreate and
yeah,
continue living. They don't go, we have to avoid the humans, because that, as I said, would associate a level of intelligence that we're talking is now beyond even humans.
yeah. Now it's really interesting to sort of break down like just like all these different small things, right? And
Yeah, because
the
the
thing-
belief in Bigfoot would then have to have a million ripple flow-on effects. What about this, then this, then this, and
yeah,
it means this, and it would. What about the animals here? What about the environment here? What about the
mm,
food source here? What about,
yeah,
like, there'd be a million what ifs if they
yeah.
actually,
Yeah, and,
you
and,
know,
and that's what's so interesting about these like cryptids and stuff. So there's always that question of what if, right? Because you can always break down like, oh, what if this, what if that, and stuff like that. Like how I say that, Sasquatches specifically for like North American, it's like has like a bunch of scientists and whatnot just made one big line going across the entire continent and then just walked all the way to the top to make sure that exactly spots everything? Obviously, no, right? But obviously, with technology, we've been able to scope out the land and stuff like that, all the
yeah,
different whatnot. But I think that there's a chance that maybe Bigfoot is just such a rare creature, right? Like maybe it's not like, you know, other primates, other animals and stuff where, like, you know, like elk, like moose, you know, like they breed a lot and stuff like that. Maybe it is like a thing where it's just a rare creature, or maybe
So how
it's
does it? How does it like How has it survived then if it
yeah,
breeds so rarely? How has it
yeah,
remained around and not breeding populations is huge. Like
yeah,
entire species will go extinct because they're not breeding enough to maintain population, right?
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
because if you're not breeding enough and like there's one bad season or there's an axe like a rock falls on you or maybe
Yeah,
that one bear that you were fighting got the better of like a scratch in that got infected, like then your entire like how many Bigfoot
yeah,
are out there, like
yeah,
that they
exactly.
have to be able to populate. Like we're talking any sustainable population would likely be detectable, especially an animal that large to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like
What about like
with that sort of
fossils,
stuff.
remains?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure some fossils have been found. Have they not? Hang on, let me just search it up. Bigfoot.
So cryptid is also a really interesting category, right? Because
Yeah,
it does pertain to um like there are some cryptids that I believe 100% could exist, and the big
yeah,
one for me is thylacine. Do you
yes,
know what thylacine is?
yeah. I've heard of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tasmanian tiger, like because it was an actual, legitimate, real, verified animal that has
mm,
gone extinct in the last 100 years, like 80,
mm,
90 years ago. But there's literally thousands of reports, and that's not something that has never been verified. This is an actual animal
mm,
that they believe they basically got hunted out of not hunted out of exist, but the food source that it competed with dingoes, it couldn't survive. But there are areas through densely jungle populated Papua New Guinea where they believe thylacine may be, and some of the really densely populated bush areas of Australia as well. So that's technically a cryptid, and I can see those ones. Like you
yeah,
said, the kraken was in all likelihood a giant squid. I know that uh, I think I've told you before about this bloke named Forrest Gallant. Actually, let's watch this thing.
yes,
I've got this. Do you want to watch another video? Are you all right with
yeah,
doing reacts, or is it like too
yeah.
boring?
No, I'm down.
Yeah, let's watch this guy. I'll present the screen again, and we'll see what he says about that very video we just actually watched. This
Yeah,
guy.
I
Yeah,
definitely do think that there's a chance that Bigfoot, you know, could be extinct now, right?
sorry.
And I definitely do think that there's a chance that Bigfoot potentially like can be extinct now, right? Because otherwise, I do agree with you. It's like, how can a primate, you know, of that size,
Yeah.
not be breeding as much, and you know, the food source stuff. Plus, with the technology we have today, how's no one like actually
Hmm.
come up with drone footage stuff like that? All that's like like a really solid good argument. I just think that it has existed at least once before, and I personally
Right.
think that the Gimlin film was like the best capture of it. Whether like I do believe in Bigfoot, but I guess a good question is, do I think if it's still around or not? That I'm not sure, but I do think at least once it has existed.
Right.
If
Okay.
that makes sense. Yeah.
So this right here is called the Wild Times podcast. This guy up here, his name is Forrest Gallant.
Hmm.
I've talked to you about him before, but he is a specialist in rare and extinct animals.
Yeah.
And so he's actually done a lot of TV shows on the
Animal Planet.
Animal Planet
Yeah.
and stuff like that, where he actually hunts like for rare animals. He's done searches for the thylacine, things like that. He's actually found extinct animals and refound populations.
Oh wow.
Um, and they also sort of go into cryptids and things like that as well. And he discovered in America there was some part, I can't remember where it was, but um, a urban legend of a cryptid in the area called the red howler or something, and he was searching for this
Oh
cryptid animal called the red howler, which people had been reporting for decades of this beast in the woods that makes this terrible sound and all this sort of thing. Turns out it was a very rare population of wolf that was like had a distinct call and all that sort of thing, which he found. So the line between cryptid and genuine biology, zoology, can sometimes be blurred. Like a lot of cryptids are just based off of one. Like for example, there's one in Australia. I forget what it's called, where it's basically a wombat with antlers.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Like
think a bit of
it's
that.
like
Yeah,
okay, like well, yeah. Clearly, you just saw a wombat one day. Maybe there was sticks in the background or something. Like, and
yeah,
it becomes a thing. Like when it's so close to a real animal, why did that? You have to think, evolutionarily speaking, why is there a 10-foot
yeah,
primate in existence in that area? Like, how did it evolve to be that? Like, or stay that? Like, and adapt to the area when everything else says it shouldn't exist? But
yeah.
anyway, this is the guy that so he's sort of into that world. Does a lot of deep things as far as very cool rare animals. And he's got a podcast with some of his friends, which are just lay people, and will ask questions about animals. Could dragons have existed? Things like that from a actual animal expert, but not just a normal zoological animal expert, but a cryptid rare animal expert that has proven and disproven the existence of some of them. You know what I mean? So it's a pretty cool angle to come at it from.
Gimlin video.
Kyle,
It's
can you pull this up?
The original. Yeah, I went real deep on this recently.
What'd you figure out?
I want you to watch it.
Okay. The vignetting around Bigfoot there is very questionable.
Just somebody added that.
Yeah,
Okay,
someone added that.
So it looks like that without that weird like stabilization thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Kyle, run it back. Let's see that again.
So for those only listening, this is the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot video of basically pretty much just a gorilla walking through a wooded area.
I mean, it looks really good. Kyle, is there one where they haven't done the like stabilization? Is there an organic one? We don't need to watch the video 1,000 times over. I mean, to me, it looks like a guy who spent a lot of time making a fantastic Bigfoot costume and then set up a camera from far away and walked in front of it.
Well, and that's exactly what it is.
Is it?
So,
I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, well, no, nobody knows. It's still hotly contested.
It's been debunked, mate. That's ludicrous.
Oh, Jesus. I see why stabilization was on it.
It has been the subject of many attempts to debunk or confirm, but there is no consensus. Read about it. Spend some time. They've made documentaries about it and the debate that's ensued.
I will say he's got a fantastic rump. Like that.
He does.
That Bigfoot has a tremendous derriere, which is a delight in 2023.
Why? Okay, so let's say this guy made that suit and did it. Why? What's the reason? Just to feel special? Pure boredom?
That one I don't get. Like the guy that we talked about and have talked about a few times, this has stuck with me. I think it will forever. Who put the Velociraptor feet on and walked up and down the beach in Florida every day?
Yeah.
That guy I get. Like that's hilarious. You're just causing a whole community to think that there's a dinosaur around at night. Like that's fantastic. I mean, but he didn't do it. He didn't do it for the clout. You know, he never even revealed himself until he got busted. This I don't get. Why would you just dress up as a Bigfoot to put that video out in the world? I don't know what the benefit is. You don't get anything out of it, right?
So now what if I told you that people have pulled up side-by-side images of, so this was in 1967, the video was released. Okay. In 1970, a Planet of the Apes sequel was released where, tons and tons of money was spent by a big film studio to make believable ape costumes.
So this is your argument then?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Well, we're going to go down that path.
And the one that's in the Patterson Gimlin video is way better than the ones in the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
The ones in the movie look like fucking Pillsbury Doughboys with hair taped to them.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's true. How do you make that look so good in the 60s? It's a good question.
Does it walk? Is that how a gorilla walks when it walks
fruit.
upright?
Those are really rough. Oh man. Yeah.
But does
That's
a
with
gorilla
millions
walk-
of dollars.
It's
Sorry, go ahead.
It's so funny looking at those compared to the Bigfoot costume.
Yeah. But is that how a gorilla walks? If it is walking upright, does it walk like that?
No. So a gorilla, I mean, if they're walking upright, they're like very sort of back leaning with their sort of arms up, or they're front leaning because their arms are so heavy. It's very different to a gorilla. A gorilla is like, you know,
That's how you walk, isn't it, Mucky?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
it's got these big, heavy forearms. So it's like hunched over, front leaning, or it's leaning so far back, which is why whenever you see them doing the chest thump thing, they're like, look like they're arched way back.
Right.
It's because there's so much weight and mass. They're not really meant to be fully upright. See what I mean? See how he's like arched back like that?
That's exactly how
Very awkward.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, there it looks good when it's behind the hill, but as soon as you see like the lower half, you can see he's craning his shoulders backwards to be upright. It's not very vertical. And you compare that.
So, do you think the paddy walk looks like an ape? It's a good walk. It's an authentic walk, or is it a dude?
I reckon, in like the Patterson Gimlin film.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's an authentic walk, right? Because I guess like the biggest difference between what this video is showing and the Patterson Gimlin one is that it looks like its lower half, like its ass, is sort of sticking out a bit more, right? Whereas with the Patterson Gimlin one, it looked a little bit more like
upright,
upright, hunched over, like type thing.
Interesting. Okay.
To our Bigfoot thing you saw a minute ago, and it's much more like bipedal looking.
Yeah. It has the gait of a man,
of
a very sassy man.
So, Pat, are you saying that you think that this is legit? This one?
No.
Okay, just wondering.
I'm intrigued. It's interesting to go down the wormhole on this one a little bit because some very credible people don't think it's a costume.
They're always fun. It's always fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to see these things, and whatever it is, who cares? It's like, it's fun. Here's the other thing. You're asking, why would someone do this? If I was a fanatical believer in Bigfoot, well, I guess I wouldn't say that because I'm a fanatical believer in thylacine. But here's what I was going to say. It's kind of like Neil Waters, right? Like, he's such a fanatical believer in thylacine that there's no way he doesn't know that those shitty images he put out is not a thylacine. But maybe he self-justifies it by going, if I put out these fake pictures and say it's thylacine, it will spur enough attention and enough excitement around thylacine that it might actually lead to more conservation efforts, discovery efforts, whatever. Maybe that's what this person is thinking. Like, I saw Bigfoot 100%. I know it so much so that I'm willing to fake it to cause like a mass push or hysteria to try and uncover the real thing. And if I have to be, devious in order to do that, well, so be it, because it's for the greater good. I could see somebody like self-justifying their shitty like deception by doing that. You know what I mean? Yeah, where they're like, this is worth it. It doesn't matter if I'm the bad guy.
Well, it's like the Sheelys who released the infamous Florida skunk ape video, like the most famous one, and then opened a roadside attraction called the Skunk Ape Research Facility, which you said you've been to for us. And it's just a gift shop.
It's great. It's
you
a
buy
great
stuffed
gift shop,
skunk apes. It's fucking packed all the time. I was there this year.
Yep.
There's like fucking 60 people there just like buying stuffed skunk apes for $40
Did
each.
you buy yourself a blow dart gun there? Because that's where I have purchased every one I've ever owned.
Yeah, like when you cracked your buddy's windshield with it?
Yep, that's where it came from Skunk Ape HQ.
So there you go. So they're pretty cool. But that's a dude that at least knows a lot, and he called bullshit. He says it's a costume. It is interesting that there's no 100% like disproving, like that it hasn't been 1000% debunked, like that. No one's been able to completely disprove it.
And that's what's so interesting about it, right? It's like you'd think with today's technology, we would be able to analyze it and be able to 100% say, yes, it exists or no, it doesn't. But it's still a mystery, right? Because people can't say yes. But
that's why you can't prove that something doesn't exist,
Yeah.
right? You can look at all the signs and say, in all likelihood, something doesn't live here, doesn't exist because there's no signs of it, right? But you can't prove that something doesn't. You can't prove a negative. You have to prove that it actually exists.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that shows that it does. We actually surprisingly have 4 people watching at the moment. I don't know if there's anyone want to chuck in the comments. Bigfoot, Mucky's trying to get me there. I'm not there. What else you got for me, Mucky?
I mean, not much actually in terms of proving that the Bigfoot exists, right? It's just more sort of what I personally believe in. But if you wanted here's this fact XYZ fact, MNY, I don't have it, right? But I just have sort of my own beliefs. From my own
So where did it come from then? How is it there?
The Bigfoot?
Did it evolve from monkeys as we know, from Africa? The same sort of source? Are they? So it was a branch off of human evolution.
That's what I think, because there are always outliers in every source of data that you'll have, right? And my genuine belief on how we do have a Bigfoot-like creature is that it went from monkey to man, but just before it reached man, something had happened, right? And it's sort of
I mean, we had Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon. There was obviously some before actual man, but
yeah, exactly. And I just think that with those outliers of data, just like with all humans, we migrated around the world. A bunch of different cultures started. A bunch of different civilizations and whatnot. And I just think that there's a chance that they're just not necessarily nomads, but sort of just halfway there, but not the full way there type of creatures that then got labeled as a Yowie, a Sasquatch and stuff, who are just roaming around doing their own thing. That's how I think it originated.
So
now,
again,
I don't, but that's just what I think.
Yeah, the thing I said before, I've never actually thought it before, but tonight opening up the discussion when I said for them to exist today and avoid detection on a global scale, because we're saying that they exist as Yowies in Australia, as you don't. Why do you not believe in Yetis then, or why is it only the North American Sasquatch?
So obviously I believe in the one in Russia, Australia, and China and whatnot, but the Yeti is an interesting one where most sightings of Yetis are at very high altitudes, right? And have you done a lot of climbing and stuff like that, Kahuna? I mean, I feel like that was a dumb question. Okay, I take that question away.
My years of mountaineering.
It's 1 a.m, right? And I've got work at 6, all right? And, my
brain do?
Yeah, but it's fine. I've already had a sleep. It's fine. We can go all the way to 5:40 before I should order an Uber to go. All right, but there's thing called mountain sickness, right? Which people have reported that it's because of the lack of oxygen. You're at such high altitude where there's not hardly any oxygen, so your brain obviously starts to hallucinate and stuff. And a lot of reports of Yeti hasn't been like this, this white creature or this white furred creature, right? It's normally just like a black figure that they can see, right?
Right.
But when you hallucinate, when you close your eyes and stuff, you can sort of you can kind of see circular outlines, but it's mostly just black spots, right? And I just think that potentially as they're hallucinating with mountain sickness, they think they can see something, but it's just that sort of shape. Now, obviously, there's stories of them finding tracks, like even the great Sir Edmund Hillary, the first man to climb to the top of Mount Everest, who was a Kiwi, by the way. Mad respect. It's on the he's on the $5 bill here in New Zealand.
He was on our 100 for years, before we went to the new plastic. He was on our
Wow.
100. He's only on your 5. He was on our 100 over here.
I mean, $5 bills are way more common than $100 bills, right?
Yeah, but
most-
isn't $100 bills like, the status symbol?
yeah, I'm not sure who's on a $100 bill.
Because you don't see them. You never get any.
I never get any. Because
The same, like hundreds.
Yeah.
I don't know what 100 looks like at all.
is there 3 zeros or 1? No, because Queen Elizabeth is on the $20 bill, but anyways, like Suman Hillary has even reported that him and is it Tibet? Is that his name? Like found like Yeti footprints on their way down from Mount Everest.
Right. Really?
Yeah. Like there's some like actual like documentaries about Suman Hillary and stuff that's written down in his diaries and whatnot. Like they'd found these giant deep footprints. They were like a humans, but obviously just like way deeper and way bigger on the way down from Mount Everest. So yeah, like there's potentially that. But I just think with just the whole mountain sickness thing, right? Like I've known people who have experienced mountain sickness as well. It's a really hard thing. And I think, yeah, that's just my sort of perception of the Yeti. I think if it was at a lower altitude, you could potentially argue it. Because yeah, like even Sasquatch's its main sort of territory is sort of like, like big foresty areas like canyons and all that sort of stuff. You could argue same thing for Yetis. But I just think that it's just at such a high altitude that who really knows, right? Like I think oxes, can go pretty high, but I'm not sure about other animals. I haven't really done my research. Like, what's like the highest limit an animal can go? Do you get what I mean? Like, especially with how much oxygen. And so, because I know that oxes, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the oxygen or altitude level it is, but for those who know Mount Everest really well, it's like base camp 3, which is sort of like sort of around the halfway point of Mount Everest. That's the furthest an ox can go up to, I believe.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, like any further than that, and will just suffocate and die. So, and I believe it's also like kind of similar to humans, like something in between base camp 2 and 3 is sort of the max you can go really without oxygen. So it's an interesting one.
For an animal to adapt to live in that environment, like it's physiologically impossible for a mammal that is essentially an ape to live that high up and be able to breathe. You mean? Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, and that's my only thing.
I really appreciate you applying logic and rational thinking there. Like it doesn't make sense, but when I say things like, well, there's no signs of food source, and what about fossils and remains and impact on the plant life, and not only remains from them, like even if there was like a partner, like one Bigfoot dies and the partner like retrieves the body so that they're never found, like that's the level of conspiratorial thinking that these animals would have to be going through. But not, like I said, not only them, but like cleaning up and removing their food. They're like, why are we not finding dead bears lying around? Why are we not finding like dead animals? And we going like in every movie where they're like, something's happening to the cows, like, and it's an alien or it's a chupacabra. Speaking of cryptids, like there's some like, where are the dead animals that we're not that we're supposed to be finding with something like this? Or if it is, like you said, it could be herbivore, omnivore, carnivore, whatever. Like, what plant life is like being decimated by this species, and that's why like I said, and for them to avoid that level of detection, to be that stealth, that ninja, would imbue upon them some level of super intelligence, right? And if that's the case, then we're in trouble. I've
got a theory on aliens as well. like if it was like super intelligence. But I guess we can dive into that a bit.
Oh, like as far as linking to Bigfoot goes.
Oh, not linking to Bigfoot. No, but it's like
Oh,
its own
right,
type of thing.
No, I'm
But,
saying
yeah,
for Bigfoot to remain hidden, it has to be intentional,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm saying they have like if we were talking about, say, for example, you mean the Kraken, right?
Yeah.
And Megalodon, you said that we don't know the depths of the ocean. Like the ocean
Yeah.
is so vast. I don't think you can make the same argument for a lot of
Like
land.
land-based creatures.
Like
yeah.
maybe in like you're right, the depths of some of the Ozarks or like some dense forest, but to avoid technology would ascribe some sort of intentionality that they are trying to avoid detection. They are being stealth on purpose, right? And
Yeah.
then for them to be able to do that successfully, because I would imagine, I will grant you, right? Like say for example, you like there's probably some like rednecks in America, some guys in America that in the hills of wherever they are, I don't know what they get up to. It's probably some jokes about like incest and blah 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 that you
Yeah.
can make. But there are people in those areas that I'm sure, if wanting to, could live in those mountains and those hills and avoid detection because they
Yeah.
know it so well, like the back of their hand. And if they hear sounds, they see signs of foot traffic, of humans, of cars, lights, whatever. I'm sure that given the appropriate, measures, they could avoid detection for long periods of time and survive out there, right?
Yeah.
I think that's plausible for people to do. But as I said, that would then mean that the Bigfoot would have just as high level of intelligence, if not higher level of intelligence than us, to be able to maintain that secrecy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point to bring up.
Do you ascribe that level of like intelligence to a Bigfoot, or is it an animal to you?
I mean, how I've always seen
that
it,
would
that
mean
it's
that would
it's an
mean like
animal.
straight up like talking, like thinking, creative process to avoid
Yeah.
detection,
Yeah.
knowingly, willingly, ongoing, and successfully.
Because
Would
then if it's more intelligent than us, right? Then the question comes up: then how has it not evolved like us? Like how are we so
Exactly.
technologically advanced, and was Bigfoot
Correct.
still at square one?
Yeah.
Right. So that's like the interesting thing about, is it smarter than us? Right. I just think that I guess the more we talk about it, the more I'm kind of thinking that maybe it's already extinct, and maybe it was like a thing in the past, perhaps. Like, there are plenty of creatures like the moa bird, for example, in New Zealand, that used to be all over our lands.
The moa
It's
bird
really
is
fucking
awesome.
It's so sick. But yeah, like
I mean, like,
yeah,
how tall is
yeah.
the moa bird? 7 foot tall or something?
Yeah, it's taller than me, and I'm 6'5".
Well, have you know what I made a joke, such a dad joke the other day, and I'm still proud of it. I can't believe
Ooh.
people aren't like, Mike, we went to family lunch the other day, and my kids were eating dino nuggets. Right? Which is, a staple. And I said, dino nuggets, essentially that's cassowary. Do you know what a cassowary is?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Oh, mate, you should see cassowary. A cassowary is you know what an emu is, right?
Yeah.
So a cassowary has to easily be the closest thing to like actual dinosaurs.
Okay.
In real life. Like, yeah, let's check this out. I'm going to share my screen again. Share screen.
This ancient-looking bird is one of the closest descendants of the dinosaurs.
Oh.
Cassowary, the deadliest bird in the world. They are the second biggest and heaviest bird in the world, after the ostrich, which also part of the ratite family.
Tell me that's not a fucking raptor.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a raptor.
Like look at
together with emu. Cassowaries can grow up to 6 feet or 1.8 meters tall.
Shit. Like if that comes running at me, I'm I better
They
be
can
wearing
weigh up to 167 pounds or 76 kilograms. Despite their big size and lack of flight, cassowary can run up to 30 miles per hour or 48 kilometers per hour, which is faster than Usain Bolt. They have a pair of dead.
What the fuck? Like, is that not a dinosaur leg?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, look at that.
Yeah. Oh my god.
That looks like a dinosaur. That's
it
Jurassic
does.
Park in Australia.
Yeah, bro, I swear, like Australia is the Jurassic Park of the world. Fuck, you guys got like the blood, like you, like I mean, no, actually, that's a lie. Like around like islands off the Philippines and that sort of area have got like humongous like crocodiles and shit, right? And like giant.
Oh, we got crocodiles though, man. In the Northern Territory, yeah, we got crocs.
Absolutely.
We got the sharks. Yeah, but this is like, I feel like not enough people know about this.
Yeah,
because then they would go, we don't need Jurassic Park. We'll just go to Australia, like the wildlife park.
Deadly razor-sharp claws that can reach up to 5 inches long or 12 centimeters. Combined with their muscular and powerful legs, cassowaries can deal a deadly blow. Although they are herbivorous, cassowaries have been known to attack human. In 2019, a man from Florida was attacked by a cassowary he owned as a pet. The man was severely injured and unfortunately died after he was transported into the hospital. This ancient-looking...
Why the fuck would you have that as a pet?
Florida man has a fucking dinosaur bird and dies. Like, that's what I'm talking about. See, that's why this is the sort of thing why I can go, all right, like why a Bigfoot is in the realm of possibility, because this exists. Because we have animals like this that is 6 foot, 1.8 meters tall. It's taller than me. It's not taller than 6 foot tall, with razor blade dino legs and a freaking, like, look at its head.
Yeah. And
that's a dinosaur.
And it can run faster than Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
like you see it running towards you, like you're fucked.
This is also why I don't get why people need to make up a lot of cryptids. They're like why do you need to have, like, in America, they're like, oh, like Sasquatch. I'm like, just be impressed with grizzly bears. They're fucking awesome. Like, why do you have to make up a Sasquatch? But yeah, dino nuggets. Get it? Is it cassowary? Because if you make chicken nuggets out of a dinosaur,
dino
nuggets, cassowary. Anyway, my kids didn't like that joke because they didn't know what a cassowary was. So then I had to show them, and then we were like, "Wow, cassowaries are awesome."
Yeah, and now you're telling them that they're eating their now new favorite dinosaur bird. Like, it's just as messed up as a Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey film. Kahuna, you might as well just show them that. No, it's like it's like I think just by talking to you, like literally live here tonight, I do think that if there's any possibility of Bigfoot existing, I think you've done a good job enough convincing me that like it would have been 100% confirmed, right?
I feel a little bit like when you tell a kid that Santa Claus doesn't exist, and I don't want to like break the wonder that is Mucky, like the innocence that will believe in the legend of a Bigfoot. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, because here's the thing, right? You have people in this day and age who will raise an argument, but they do not want to hear the other side of it, right? It's like, no, this is pure fact. No matter what you say, I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to believe it because it's my way of thinking. My way of thinking is always right. Like, there's a lot of people like that, especially on social media. And it would be like an unfair podcast if we were to talk about it, but I was not having an open field to have my mind shaped. Similar to you, right? I know that you're pretty open as well. Like, you're ready for me to convince you that Bigfoot does exist. It would be unfair if either one of us were closed off to that possibility, right? So it's not really breaking the wonder. It's just searching the truth, right? Because like with all these different topics we were talking about, like Bigfoot, potentially aliens, potentially Loch Ness and Wendigos and other stuff we might be diving into, these are all question marks in the world, right? And
which you believe in all of them as well.
Yeah. Like it's a thing that's like, and like you get even skinwalkers. I kind of tie that into Wendigos as well, but it's similar to the Kraken, where it's like with some of these mystical creatures, it's not that I believe in them specifically. I just think that there was something else, but was kind of transformed into something else. If that doesn't make sense.
So as far as cryptids go, where does the line start to blur between potentially like cryptids zoological to supernatural? Because some of them start being a little bit more supernatural than, reality based. You know what I mean?
That's a really hard line. Like even
what's the most supernatural one that you believe is actually real?
I would say Wendigo. That's probably like the main.
Because that's straight up. So you do believe Wendigo is real? This is cannibals.
Yeah,
monster.
I don't 100% believe in it. Like it's something that like I'm actually excited to dive deep into with, because like I do think that.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's go. Let's do this because we're an hour 20 in.
And we've just talked about Bigfoot.
Just talked about Bigfoot. Do you want to do more at midnights?
Yeah, I'd love to do more at midnights. Yeah, I feel like we can make it a great series. Yeah.
Just in cryptids alone, I feel like if we just did an episode, like there's like I said, we could talk about chupacabra. We could talk about we've got in Australia, we've got the owl. We've also got the bunyip. I don't know much about the bunyip, but it's. But yeah, if you genuinely believe I would do Winnebago. I would love to learn about Winnebago. We'll learn all about Winnebago. We'll do aliens. We'll do all that stuff. Yeah. Would you do more of them? Like no one's watching. Like we got 3. Hey, 3 people.
Mad Dog 3. Well, yeah, I'll be super.
Because my philosophy is whether we were going live or not, I would still enjoy this conversation with you. So if we can record it anyway, like why not? Because I would have been on a Saturday night for me having a chat with Mucky about fucking Bigfoot. And like that sounds like a great night to me. You know what I mean? Like that's fun. And if we do it about all sorts of cryptids and aliens and cool like what about Egypt stuff? Are you into like the Egypt alien Egypt shit?
Okay, not alien Egypt shit, but I do have a book somewhere in my apartment, and it's all about Egyptian mythology and shit, and it's so fucking fascinating. Like, I love everything about it. Like, I read it so many times as a kid, and like when it comes to stuff like aliens and even with spirits as well, I've got a good friend Hamish who does witchcraft and stuff. Like, even one episode we can maybe even have him on, and he can talk about his experiences. Like, I've had a supernatural experience like right here in this apartment. If you want me to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, let's do it for the supernaturals one then, because I'm down for that as well. Like, let's save topics. Let's actually build. Like, if we're gonna do it as a thing, let's do it as a thing. I didn't anticipate that like this channel, Kahuna Vision. I made years ago, and I was streaming a little bit during the pandemic, and it hasn't been touched. And I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna have a chat with Mucky, I'm gonna revive it. Let's do a thing at midnight. Let's do it again. Like, if you want to do another one in the next couple of weeks, we'll do more cryptids, continue on with the cryptids. We can do aliens. We can do any topic. If people want to actually put some suggestions and ideas that you want to get Mucky's mysterious and beautiful mind delve deep into and see his insights and takes on some of these wild topics. What else do you go into? Just so I get an idea of, like, are you a serial killer guy?
Yeah, I mean, if I was a serial killer, I would not tell you, Kahuna. I mean, I really am into wheatbergs, and I love to stab the shit out of it. No, but I'm pretty interested. There's one that I'm actually reading up on. It's called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So obviously a really, really famous one. I played a game on it a while ago. I was like, wow, this game is actually really hard and really, really fun. Like, I should watch something about it. I watched a movie about it on Netflix, and it's like, wait, this is based on real events. And then I found it's like this is whole actual real story and stuff. And I'm enjoying reading about it.
Because I know you love horror movies, right?
I do.
So you didn't know about Texas Chainsaw Massacre as a real thing from the horror movie side?
No, so when it comes to like serial killers and stuff like that, I'm not normally into those type of horrors, but just
Okay.
because it's pretty basic, right? It's like, oh my god, that person has a knife, and he just bloody stabs someone. Like, I think my favorite serial killer movie was like the piss take scary movies, and the
Right.
first one where it's like about Scream, like that's just hilarious. But then it was sort of like in the last few years, I've sort of been getting really into serial killer stuff. It's because like something I love about horror is when it makes you think, right? Which is why one of my favorite horror movies of all time is Hereditary. Have you seen that?
No.
It's
So-
phenomenal.
The whole like I feel like a little bit of imposter syndrome slightly because like the whole at midnight talking about aliens, cryptids, horror movie stuff, it feels like I should be a particular type of person, and I'm not that. I'm coming at it from an angle of like skepticism, curiosity, absolutely curiosity, but I've never been huge into horror movies, but
Yeah.
the world, I feel like there's some really big topics of conversation that we can
Yeah.
have, especially down this cryptid path.
But then again, I feel like that's why our dynamic is so great, right? Because it's like I have these wider out there sort of thoughts. You have your skeptical mind, and we just break it down, right? Because that's what's so like that's why I love podcasting with you, Kahuna, if I'm being honest. If I had to say it publicly, you're my favorite person to podcast with on the Nullified Take.
We won't tell Chris.
Yeah. Just because, like, you're not only
He's not watching anyway. We know that for sure.
Yeah, there's no way he's watching a bloody hour and a half, 90 minutes of us just talking about Bigfoot. But it's like, you always feed into my jokes, but you also like help bring me down
Yes, and
as well.
Yes, and
yeah, and so
improv. I've never taken a class, but I get it.
yeah, exactly, and that's why I always love podcasting with you, because you bring in the skeptical side of it. You call me out to my shit as well, like with Sneaky Steve and Rogue, but you also like play along with the joke as well, and that's why I always love podcasting with you. And I'm excited to make this into a series and to dive deep like weekly into many different topics.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah.
Like not sure if we'll do it weekly yet. I'm happy to do it weekly if we're able to schedule wise.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll build something here because it's fun at least. I've enjoyed talking with you. I know that with work it kind of sucks for you starting early on Sundays and stuff like that.
Well,
but
my schedule changes next week, so I have Sundays off.
Okay. Well, we'll see what we do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good sell to my wife to say I'm adding like a regular podcast to the arsenal, considering I already do another 3 a week. But this was just meant to be a chat between two buds, and if we start talking shit about whatever topic comes up, and it's as fascinating as cryptids and stuff. Because admittedly, like, I know Bigfoot's your big one. Like Bigfoot's your go, like your big boy, right? Like your big beautiful boy is Bigfoot. But there's a million other cryptids that we could certainly go into. Then I would love to talk about. What are some of your favorite ones, just quickly, and then we can sort of get an idea of what maybe we can talk about in future ones.
Yeah, I feel like the Loch Ness is quite a famous one. I think it's one where it's like it's always like a big question, right? Like, is it like an actual plesiosaur? I don't think it's a plesiosaur. I think it's a big fish. But my sister Angela brought up a good point on. Apparently, they're like actual caves that connect out to the ocean at the bottom of the Loch Ness, so maybe that there was actually something there originally that just went through there. Wendigos I find very interesting, but obviously ties really deep into supernatural stuff as well. Chupacabras are pretty cool. There's one in the Philippines, actually. It's a spiritual one. I don't know if I believe in it or not, but it's really cool. Just give me one quick second. I'll quick find it. There's this chick I've been chatting to, and she brought it up and I mentioned mystical creatures.
Manananggal.
I think so. I think so. No, it's not that. Oh, yeah. Aswang?
Aswang.
Aswang is like another term for various shape-shifting evil. Yeah. Oh, it's like a vampire stuff. Oh, no, never mind.
Yeah, that's Aswang and Manananggal. is the
Yeah.
most famous one. It's our
Yeah.
version. That's what I said before. Like there's a Filipino version of vampires. Like there's different
Yeah.
versions of vampires all around the world. Doesn't add to the veracity that vampires are real just because there's different versions of it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just another trope of storytelling, which I think, yeah.
And skinwalkers, that is a really famous one that I would be very keen to dive deep into, because my friend Hamish, actually, that'd be pretty cool. Maybe I'll try to get Hamish on one night and we can talk about like his witchcraft and stuff, because he has got some kind of skinwalker experience as well, like here in Auckland as well.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sick, I reckon.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Mucky. Well, we done 90 minutes on Bigfoot alone.
Yeah, that's nuts. And the original plan was to try and cover everything.
I feel like we did a pretty good conversation.
Yeah.
At the end of it, like even if you've gotten to the point of rationally thinking maybe Bigfoot was real, but probably in all likelihood is not around today.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
sort of where my thought process is, like after this chat. Yeah.
And again, as I said, in the realm of like, again, if you're mentioning like Winnebago and skinwalkers and stuff, again, on the scale of credibility, Bigfoot being a biological creature, like potentially evolved, like feels more realistic. But as I said, the evidence for me is just not there that it exists today, or ever existed really for me either. But certainly doesn't exist today. But that's where I landed at midnight with Mucky. How's that?
It's epic, bro. It's epic.
Yeah, I like it. It's good. We're gonna keep it at midnight, because it not only is it at midnight for you, but again, it's just a midnight. We're just chilling. It's mediocre at best. Two dudes that don't know a lot and admit it. We're not like scientists. We're not experts in it. We're just like throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks, eh?
Yeah. You know, one thing that I'm actually really excited to do, you know, and for those watching, you know, Kuhn and I, you know, we podcast about Survive and Compared for Shows on the Nullified Take. One thing I'm really excited to do, and I've made a promise to myself that I'll always do this no matter what, is that if I'm ever playing Survivor or, you know, Traders or anything, is that I'll be having like a private one-on-one chat. I'll be like, hey, so I just wanted to tell you, you know, this only between us, this other private thing, but I don't actually work at a supermarket. I am a Bigfoot researcher, because then they're going to think that I'm completely nuts, right? And so they'll try and use like use me like a Philip Shepherd, drag me to the end, but then that's when I come out like, aha, that's where I got you all along, because I played like such an amazing game, anyways.
Yeah,
so they think they dragged me, but I actually dragged them.
So the intentional crazy, the Philip Shepherd.
Yeah.
You're gonna do the intentional Philip Shepherd, okay?
The intentional Philip Shepherd, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how I'll be the first 3-time winner. That's how I'll be on the first ever International All Stars World Championship of Survivor.
We'll talk about that all again in future. But yeah, we got a lot of topics to come up. But until next time, Mucky, I'm gonna catch you next time, man. We're gonna do other stuff during the week. Survivor is starting this week, which we're going to do on the Nullified Take, etc. But on this channel anyway, if you are watching, if you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe. Why not? Because we might do this again, potentially make it a thing. And we'll catch you next time at midnight.
Yeah. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching, and have a great morning, because it's midnight.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.